Hello. Well, it's been a long time since we've done one of these stories, but we've got our first fire going for the year here on Samhain. So I thought I'd start off doing the stories again. Summer was a bit of a washout with life got in the way, so I didn't manage to do any of them, but here we go. Over the winter months, hopefully I'll start getting the story out a bit more regular. So what I'm going to start with is a book. As it's our first fire we're having, I thought a story with fire would be appropriate. And this is a very special story that I'm going to tell now. It's written by a very good friend of mine called McCleary, and it's illustrated by another very good friend of mine called Pardy. And the story is called Norbert the Fire Dragon. And there you can see Norbert the Fire Dragon by the fire. So here we go. The fire was crackling and warm as Norbert lay in his usual position on the hearth, warmed by the heat of the fire, dozing and almost asleep, where Mrs. Green, his mum, stood in the doorway, and a loud voice said, "Norbert, are you going to sleep all day? Get up and do your chores. Be careful, or one day that fire will whoosh up and swallow you." Norbert shuffled around and said, "Yes, Mum, in a minute." Now on Tuesdays, Mrs. Green would meet up with the other ladies of the village for tea and cakes and a good natter, and today they arrived in Mrs. Green's lounge. They chatted about all manner of problems, from the church flowers to growing vegetables in their gardens. But today, Jean, the farmer's wife, was a bit upset. "It's Betsy, our prize milk cow. She's stopped giving milk. We have tried all sorts to sort it, and it's not improved." All the ladies gave their suggestions, but most had been tried with no success. I don't know if you can see it, but there we have, I'm looking at the cow. When everyone had left, Mrs. Green was tidying up. Norbert stretched and looked up at her with a puzzled look. "Mum, I've just had a funny dream." "Oh yes," said Mum. "Well, this cow was standing in a big bath with milk up to its tummy and being washed. I don't know what that was about," said Norbert. Said Mrs. Green. She phoned Jean, the farmer's wife, and told her about Norbert's dream. Well, the next time they all met, the talking was about how Betsy had started giving milk after Jean had given her bath. This was the best creamy milk she had ever given. And this week, Norbert just slept and snored by the fire. And if you can see it, there you've got Betsy the cow having a bath in milk. The phone rang, and Mrs. Green answered the way grown-ups do and said, "Oh yes, I see. Oh, how awful. I hope you find it." She turned to Mr. Green and explained that the baker's wife, Betty, had ordered yeast and flour, but when it was delivered she could not find the money to pay for it, and she had it in her pocket, but now it wasn't there. Norbert gave a grunt, turned over and snored. A little later, Mrs. Green came to the living room door. "Norbert, are you going to sleep all day? Get up and do your chores. And be careful, or one day that fire will whoosh and swallow you up." Well, there's the bags of flour that was in question when the ladies came round for tea. "Okay, Mum," said Norbert. "Mum, I had another funny dream. There was this purse full of coins on a shelf in the water well. I don't know what that's all about," said Norbert. The phone call was tensed as they waited for Betty to check. And yes, there was the purse down the well. Sir Norbert was now famous. Folk came from far and wide to tell him their troubles, and he would dream the answers. And there's Norbert with some of the faces of people coming to visit him. One windy winter night, before Mrs. Green went to bed, she said to Norbert, who was as always sleeping by the fire, "Norbert, are you going to sleep by the fire all night? Get up and go to bed. Remember that one day that fire will whoosh up and swallow you." "Yes, Mum," he said. And so the wind did get faster, and it swirled and whooshed outside the house. It swirled and mushed even more until down the chimney it came and covered Norbert, and it took him into the fire. And from then until now, that is where he sleeps, waiting for you to ask. And there's Norbert being mushed and swept up by the fire. So late at night, if you have a problem, look for him in the fire embers. Ask him anything that is bothering you or you need an answer to. And when you wake, you may have the answer to your problem. And that, ladies and gentlemen, and children, boys and girls, is a story of Norbert the fire dragon. And what they're talking there, if you stare into fire, if you ever see one, the thing called fire scrying. If you stare into it and think about your issues, your problems and things, you can sometimes see the answer right before your eyes. And other times when you look into the fire, you just see pictures and images and ideas. And if you look really, really closely, you might see Norbert, the fire dragon, waiting there.